We don't miss the temporary set at all, trust me. I'm Charlie Sykes. Sunday Insight starts right now. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Insight. In the week that was, is there anything sweeter than a Packers smackdown of the Chicago Bears at home? Well, how about a Lambeau leap from Donald Driver? Chicago teachers walk out on 350,000 students because it's all for the kids, right? Apple unveils the iPhone 5. The Fed agrees to stimulate the economy by basically printing more money. Yeah, that should work out great. The mining company that was shown the door in Wisconsin is now looking to create thousands of jobs in the UP of Michigan. The number of people filing for their first week of unemployment benefits rose to the worst reading since July. Middle-class incomes dropped to the lowest level since the 1990s. The nation remembered the 11th anniversary of 9/11. And New York City banned big sodas, which is good news, right? Since it's a sign that all of the big problems have been solved, like crime, poverty, lousy schools. Yeah. But we start with the Mideast burning, the anniversary of 9/11 and attacks on American embassies in Egypt and Libya. The American ambassador to Libya murdered along with 3 other Americans. Protests spread to other countries, setting off a war of words at home. Initial reports linked the attacks to an obscure anti-Muhammad movie, but evidence suggests that the attacks may have been coordinated, perhaps by groups with ties to al-Qaeda. Republican Mitt Romney was quick to criticize the administration's response, while the president hit back, accusing Romney of politicizing the issue as he got on a plane to attend a political fundraiser in Las Vegas. Now, joining me on our panel this morning, political strategist and former Milwaukee County Supervisor Lynn DeBruin, the MacIver Institute's Brian Fraley, the Milwaukee Community Journal's Michael Holt, and the Wisconsin Policy Research Institute's Mike Nichols. Let's start with you, Brian. Who won this week? I mean, there was a media pile-on that it was somehow craven and political for Mitt Romney to jump on this, but at the end of the week, are there any winners or losers in terms of American politics?
Well, the big losers are definitely the Obama administration. I mean, not only do the optics suck of him going to Vegas as this happened, but the reality of a mentality that, well, we're being nice to them. And I went to Cairo and I said nice words, and George Bush is gone, so everyone should love us. That naivete is dangerous, and we're seeing that now.
Okay, Michael Holt.
Well, I don't think Mitt Romney helped himself, because he came off as this aggressor who was being insensitive. And I think that's going to resonate. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Obama rose a little bit in the polls the following week. You know, there are no winners, though. Everybody's a loser, because I have this real funny feeling that you're going to see some American troops heading to the Mediterranean very, very soon.
Well, you know, Mike, you and I are roughly the same age here. I just had this deja vu experience that this is like 1979 all over again, and for this to happen on the anniversary of 9/11, I thought was quite chilling.
Well, exactly. I felt like we just in this country just skipped past an entire important question here, which is, how did this happen on 9/11? You know, we can talk about and analyze the politics, but the essential question is, what has happened? And we've let our guard down. How did a U.S. ambassador in a consulate in Libya actually was assassinated? How did that happen? What does it say about our national security and our attitudes towards 9/11?
Linda, here.
You know, first of all, I think Romney didn't help himself at all. If anything, he lost a little ground. But on the more important issue, which you're talking about now, I think that what we're seeing, or at least what we're hearing, is that this was probably one of those very ultra-militant groups that have links to al-Qaeda that are very difficult to find and very difficult to control. And whether it's a Republican or a Democrat in the White House, whether it's 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 10 years from now, I think that's where some of the biggest threats come from. But they apparently launched a missile into this compound. So this is not, it's not just an issue of we needed more guards that maybe could have stopped a guy with a gun. This is high tech.
I think Mike's point is very interesting. On 9/11, we always ask the question, have we learned our lesson? Has the world changed? And I was really struck by Hillary Rodham Clinton, the Secretary of State's press conference, where she was sort of scratching her head. Why would these people do this? Did we learn absolutely nothing? The president, when he made his statement, which was sort of a flat statement, never mentioned the word terror, never mentioned al-Qaeda, never talked about American free speech. And it was, when you go back and you say, why did this happen? Why were we not prepared? You know, is it because we were so naive that somehow we thought that the world would love us? That because President Obama went over there and he gave a speech, and because we don't give bullets to the Marines, and because we do all of these wonderful things, that suddenly they don't, that we are no longer at war? I mean, I got to tell you, I thought, first of all, I know the media was piling on Mitt Romney. I thought his criticism was eminently justifiable, because what was happening in Cairo was you were having the beginning of this assault on the embassy, and the only response from the State Department, was essentially to rip this obscure YouTube movie, to say that, you know, how awful it was, which was not necessarily an apology, but certainly seemed to legitimize what turns out to be a pretext, an excuse for attacking Americans.
See, I didn't view that as weakly as you did, or as I thought, well, they were trying to try and calm things down. But the bottom line is, you know, the whole issue, are we protecting our embassies enough? And I think you brought this up during the week, last week on your radio show, of whether or not we should only leave it up to our host countries. I think we need to reassess and relook at that, because clearly I'd feel better if it was Americans protecting Americans.
I don't know how this is going to play out in the presidential election, because, you know, in the short term, there's an American tradition of rallying around the president, so he's going to see the numbers go up. On the other hand, if you have to ask the question, are we safer than we were 4 years ago? I think the answer would have been easy to say, yes, we are, before 9/11, 2012.
I think that would be naive to assume that we're safe.
Well, okay.
What is
you
the
want
purpose?
to argue that we are?
What is the purpose of having Marines, these fighting men standing there with no bullets in their gun?
But we
you tell me. I don't know.
That makes no sense to me at all.
Ridiculous.
I figure we're at war with everybody.
Well, again, you know, the president doesn't have a problem talking about the war on women, but apparently he, you know, has a problem talking about the war on terror.
The war on radical Islamists who want to wipe us off the face of the earth. If you were to believe this administration is to believe that this was a reaction to a 2-month-old YouTube video that just coincidentally happened in 2 different locations in North Africa on 9/11.
Okay, now, Mike, this election has been all about the economy, stupid. It has been all about domestic. Does this change things? Does this remind people that the world is scary, or are people too focused on domestic issues?
I think if things remain the way they are today and there aren't further attacks, no, it doesn't really change things very much, because people aren't really focused, voters are not focused on foreign policy. Very, very small percentage are focused on foreign policy. I do think that there could be politically, and I hate to look at it through a political lens, but if the Obama administration does do what it's promised to do and track down whoever's responsible and hold them responsible, then I think that Obama will come out looking okay in early November.
He could, but here's the problem. This comes at the same time that we have been sort of dissing Israel, that the president, at least the Israelis, say that he refused to meet with the prime minister of Israel. So you have to ask yourself, are we safer? Do our enemies fear us? Do they respect us? And do our allies trust us? And I think the answer is no. Still ahead on Sunday Insight, Chicago school teachers start the school year by walking out on their students. And as we go to break, some campaign trail mix on the violence at the U.S. embassies.
The administration was wrong to stand by a statement sympathizing with those who had breached our embassy in Egypt, instead of condemning their actions.
There's a broader lesson to be learned here, and Governor Romney seems to have a tendency to shoot first, name later. And as president, one of the things I've learned is you can't do that.
A weak America breeds insecurity and chaos around the world. The best guarantee of peace is American strength.
That there is no place in a civilized world for senseless murder.
Is Chicago going to be the next Wisconsin? That was an interesting question after Chicago's teachers union went on strike last week, walking out on the more than 350,000 students in Chicago public schools. The union is clashing with Mayor Rahm Emanuel, who's been pushing school reform. The city reportedly offered the teachers a 16% raise over 4 years, but the union objects to new teacher evaluation measures. Teachers in Wisconsin have been quick to announce their support for the Chicago strike. WEAC President Mary Bell, for example, declared, "We will stick together and speak with one voice, because based on what we've witnessed in Wisconsin, solidarity is required." Okay, your reaction to the Chicago teachers strike and how it's going to play out?
Well, when I first heard about it, I said, this is for the kids, huh?
Yeah,
sure,
well.
right. You know, this is about evaluating teacher performance in the classroom. I mean, that's the bottom line on this. And I think the teachers in Chicago are trying to stop this tsunami of reform that's going around the country. I think they'll probably win this particular battle. I think there will be some concessions on the part of the city of Chicago in this particular case. But they can't stop the tsunami. There's no way. People want greater accountability. It's a national priority, it's a local priority.
You're talking about a tsunami of reform. You know, in part, it's because, I mean, they are among the highest paid teachers in America. Chicago is one of the lowest performing school districts in America. You have one of the lowest graduation rates, lowest test scores in America. And the argument is, hey, why don't we try to get more good teachers in the classroom and get rid of the bad teachers? And that, I guess they're willing to go on strike so that they're not evaluated and held accountable for their performance?
What they're saying, and there's some justification to it, they're saying because of poverty and all these social conditions, these poor black children can't learn, so don't blame us.
Okay,
That's
That's
what they're
ridiculous
saying.
that black children can't learn. But
Well,
I do
is that what they're
think
saying?
if the fight is over, do you have a tool that actually measures true performance or whatever? I could handle them fighting over that.
Yeah.
But I do have a problem with the issue of or the idea that somehow it's impossible to ever measure poor kids performing in a school or to get them to perform.
Is this a smart tactical move for them to go on strike over this issue?
Not in my mind, because first of all, to know that they're the 16% raise, 4% a year, that's a hefty raise in this economy. So it's not like they're going on strike over financial issues. They're going on strike over just this issue.
Mike Nichols.
No, it's almost a ridiculous tactic because if it's over money, they lose because people look at anybody getting 4% per year and they say that's ridiculous for them to fight over. If it really is over teacher evaluations, they lose for a variety of reasons. Number one, because the Obama administration strongly supports new teacher evaluations. Also because when people come to understand how teacher evaluations are done, there's something in Madison. It's called the Value Added Research Center. You can now measure, in most instances, the teacher's input and influence on children as they learn over time. There is a way to measure teacher performance, along with some other things other than value added, that teacher evaluations are coming. It's possible.
So how does this connect with the public employee wars in Wisconsin?
Well, like we saw in Wisconsin last year, the tail is wagging the dog. I think they're getting so far out on the limb here that they've made the calculation that President Obama's former chief of staff will cave because he won't want a protracted teacher strike at the heart of election season when Obama's up for re-election. So they're drawing the line in the sand, thinking that they'll win this round because of it. They may be right.
No, they are right. But you know,
oh, you think Rahm Emanuel's going to cave?
I think he is. I think he's going to cave, just for some of the reasons you said.
Yeah.
But I think everybody should really pay heed to what's going to happen here in Milwaukee in 1 year. Because of Act 10, the superintendent, Greg Thornton, who everybody at this point thinks is a great guy, great administrator, he's going to implement a lot of these same reforms in Milwaukee public schools, and the teachers union here can't do anything about it. He's going to become the hated black man, watch, June 1st.
Okay, but will they be good changes?
He wants to extend the school day. He wants to close gap. He wants evaluation. He's talking about merit pay and more charter schools.
You know who looks the best this week? Scott Walker.
Yeah, Scott Walker looks great, and you know, since we're talking about American politics, I find it extraordinary that Barack Obama has had nothing to say about absolutely nothing. Coming up on Sunday Insight, the Packers beat down the Bears, and as we go to break, the bear hug for the Bear fan in chief. President Obama looking like Jay Cutler in Clay Matthews' grip. A weak, dispiriting opening day, followed by a rousing, inspired smackdown of the Chicago Bears. The defense that had seemed so wobbly last Sunday made Jay Cutler and the Bears look like the mice of the Midway last Thursday night. The vaunted Packer offense that sputtered against the 49ers found that it had a real live running game. So we really had to find out what Linda Bruin thought about this. Okay, you know, when we saw them a week ago, it looked like they hadn't fixed any of the problems that they had at the end of last season. No running game, bad defense. And yet Thursday night, they looked much, much stronger. So which is the real Green Bay Packers team?
This one. Absolutely. You know, 4 interceptions, 7 sacks. This is about as good of a defense as you can get, and it's the opposite of what happened the week before. So this is the Green Bay Packers I hope we continue with.
How much irrational exuberance? Give us a reality check.
Which one's the real one? We won't find out till the end of December, just like last year. I'm still stuck in last year. You know, all these games at the beginning of the season. I want to see what they do when they're playing the Giants or again playing San Francisco on in the cold weather up at Lambeau.
Okay, so what was the best part about this game? What was
Clay Matthews, all the sacks. The defense actually looked good, but they still gave up 4 yards per carry. So, I mean, there's still some holes.
Yeah.
The problem with the Packers is they drafted all these defensive players, but it takes them a year or two to reach a real high standard. So, I mean, it's going to be touch and go. And if the offense doesn't start clicking, they're probably going to end up at like 9-7.
No. 9-7 in their sleep.
You hang around with Bears fans. I know you do. I know you hang around with Bears fans. You know?
It's nice to see that it's a new season, but it's the same Jay Cutler, and it couldn't happen to a better guy. I mean, what a whiny, typical Bear. Anyway, this does say, I think, that the San Francisco 49ers are the real deal and that their defense is pretty darn impressive. You know, our offense still hasn't clicked the way we thought it would. I mean, obviously, Aaron Rodgers is not going to have another year like he had last year, the best year in the NFL history, with completion percentage, passer rating, and everything else. But there were a lot of drops, and were they overthrown? I mean, there's still room for improvement with this team.
What is with the drops? I was talking with Wayne Larrivee about this on Friday, and he says it's a little bit, it is contagious. He actually believes that pass drops are contagious, like it's a virus that goes throughout the team.
No, I'm not going to argue with Wayne Larrivee on that.
It's a little bit of superstition.
Jermichael Finley, you know, there's a reason why I only gave him a 2-year contract. How many balls has he dropped? He's supposed to be the penultimate tight end, but he's dropped more in the last 2 games than he has all of last season. They're going to have some problems. There might be some changes.
Okay, now there were so many sweet moments in that game, and obviously seeing Jay Cutler examining the turf in Lambeau. And I'm sure that he has a great appreciation for the grounds crew at Lambeau since he spent most of his time with his face in the turf. But come on, Donald Driver doing the Lambeau leap and then showing off some of his moves. I mean, he's obviously been practicing.
And that's the first pass he's caught in 2 games.
Yeah,
2 games. So that means is Driver on his way out?
Oh, clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, this is his last year.
Okay, I know that it's a somewhat silly question to ask because we're only the 2nd game of the season, but how important was it for the Packers not to go 0-2?
Yeah, I think it's huge in the division, especially because down the road that's going to hurt them if they've got losses in the division. It's competitive. It's a competitive division.
And historically, when they've gone 0-2, they've not made it into the playoffs. So that's, I think, psychologically, it's a big deal too.
Okay, well, yeah. Had they lost, I mean, let's just think about the alternative reality. They would have lost 3 straight games at Lambeau Field, and the last being against the most hated rival. I don't know how you come up with a more demoralizing scenario than that. I mean, even when you have Aaron Rodgers at the helm. And what's interesting about this is that Aaron Rodgers was not the star of the game. He was not the star of the game. Were you impressed, by the way, with the fake field goal?
Oh, that was fantastic.
Yeah, Tom Crabtree, beautiful.
Nice to know that our punter's a better quarterback than the Bears' quarterback.
Well, but also, I mean, it's good to know that we have a coaching staff that's willing to pull the string on something like that. And you could just see from the Bears that they were absolutely, caught with their pants down.
And a much better 4th and 26 memory than the last one.
Okay, does that exercise the old 4th and 26?
No.
No. Yeah, because when we refer to 4th and 26, now we can at least say which 4th and 26 do you want to talk about?
Right.
See, that's the problem. We remember the bad stuff more than we remember the good stuff. Next on Sunday Inside, our panel picks the winners and losers of the week. But first, here is your morning news update. It's time for our panel to pick the winners and losers of the week. Linda Bruin, you're first.
The 1980 presidential campaign between Ronald Reagan and incumbent President Jimmy Carter occurred during the Iran hostage crisis, where 52 Americans were held for 444 days. When a helicopter rescue attempt ordered by President Carter failed, candidate Reagan said, "This is the time for us as a nation and a people to stand united. I unequivocally support the President of the United States, no ifs, ands, or buts, and it certainly is not a time to try to go one up politically. Candidate Ronald Reagan is my winner. Candidate Mitt Romney is my loser for his inaccurate and unpresidential attempt to score political points over the death of 4 Americans killed by terrorists on foreign soil."
Brian Fraley.
I'll give you credit for being half right this week. Winners, well, it could be you if you attend the Streetcar Named Disaster Rally this Tuesday night at Serb Hall. It starts at 5 p.m. and there's space for you. In just a moment, go to streetcarnameddisaster.com for details on how you can help derail Tom Barrett's 2-mile trolley folly this Tuesday night at Serb Hall. Loser, Chicago Bears quarterback Jay Cutler. Hey, it's only week 2 and he's already in mid-season form. Interceptions, outbursts, admiring the turf close up, and pouting worse than my 3-year-old daughter ever has.
Michael Holt.
I partially agree. Green Bay beat Chicago. Sorry about that, Brother Bob Smith. But more importantly, the Brewers are on the verge of doing something unprecedented. You better tune in. This is going to be an excellent finish. My loser, we were talking about Egypt. We need to probably talk about Iran because something tells me that we're going to end up in another war very, very soon.
Mike Nichols.
My loser, New York City Mayor and Uber nanny Michael Bloomberg, whose Board of Health banned big sugary drinks in places like restaurants and delis the other day. My winners, donuts, Kit Kat bars, and Coca-Cola. I think I'll stock up while I can.
Well, my losers are a long list. Chicago students, the American economy, the Chicago Bears. Did I mention the Chicago Bears? My winner, this show. We've got this fancy new set this week along with all of our colleagues here at TMJ4. Now, it may not actually be the Starship Enterprise, but it's a nice step up. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy my radio show Monday morning on News Radio 620, WTMJ from 8:30 until noon. Have a great week.